This year, you have the Empress, right? So you're being encouraged to really think about joy, pleasure, abundance, romance, creativity. This is a year for you to really understand what it means to enjoy life to the fullest, Leo. And after the year that you've had, well, I'd say the years previously that you've had, I think this is going to be a wonderful time of it. Now, in terms of your actions, you are being encouraged to think about your personal aesthetic. So this year, I'm imagining a lot of Leos are going to be going through a little bit of a glow up henny, right? So I'm totally here for that. But also, what this suggests is with the Empress, this is really about getting the aesthetic right. So whatever it is that you're trying to do, the message behind the Empress as your actions, it means that whatever you are doing, you're doing it to the best of your ability. You're making it look as good as possible. And yes, I understand not everything in life is just about looking good. However, when you've got a website that looks really beautiful, streamlined, and inviting, you're likely to get more customers. When you've got, I don't know, a product or a service, like when you go into the supermarket, do you pick up the pack of something that looks really nice and juicy and inviting, or do you pick up the one that looks a bit battered that everybody else has discarded? Right? The aesthetic of things counts. We are hardwired as human beings to look at things in the lens of either not like good or bad, but when you think about like fruits and stuff, right? We know what a moldy or a doughy or whatever looking fruit looks like. And so we're hardwired to look for things that look good. It's part of our literal sort of wiring, right? So get your aesthetics and the look and the streamline and the feel of everything that you're doing, get them on point this year. So this year, you have the Hanged Man, right? So I know you're probably thinking, what does that mean, right? Don't panic. First of all, this doesn't mean that nothing is happening this year. But what I do want to really stress to you is this is a powerful, dynamic year in that there is a lot of change. So 2025 itself is a universal 9 year, which is a year for endings, completions, culminations. This is where things are really coming to a close. You add to that then Saturn, Neptune are both moving into the sign of Aries, which for you represents your 9th house. You add to that Uranus is moving into the sign of Gemini, that's your 11th house. You add to that Jupiter is moving into the sign of Cancer, that is your 12th house. There is a lot going on this year, and truth be told, we start the year with a Mars retrograde in the sign of Cancer in your 12th house. We start the year with a Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Gemini, which is your 11th house, right? So really and truthfully, the start to the year this year is going to be a lot slower. It's going to be a lot slower paced, and you are encouraged, especially because you have the Hanged Man as your key to what should I say, your overarching energy for the year, or the flavor or the theme. What's the message behind the Hanged Man? Reassessment, reevaluation, slowing down, doing things slowly, taking your time with it. This is not a time for you to rush. This is not a time or a year for you to really, yes, you will be making forward momentum and forward progression, but this isn't a year to just charge in and kind of go all at it hammer and tongs. Reassess your life this year, Leo. Reevaluate your life. What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? Who do you want to be? These are the questions that you're answering this year. And with this Hanged Man in January, January is going to be a slow and steady month. And the thing that I love most about this card is that when you sit still and you really do the introspective work, you find that you end up at your destination, the one that you wanted to be at anyway. All right. So take your time with it. Don't rush. Just take your sweet time. You have all the time that you need, okay? Now, you're going to get one destiny card, one direction card for each month of the year. Let's see what the cards have in store for you. All right, so for January, your clarifying energy is the God of Wands. So, funnily enough, This card actually it's an archetype of Leo, right? So this is usually a fire sign male, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, but it's a fire sign person. The fact that you have this with the Hanged Man, what's really interesting to me about this is the God of Wands, or in this deck it's called the God of Wands, but it's the King of Wands. The King of Wands, first of all, is the king that's worked the hardest of all of the kings for what he has. He's proven himself in some way, shape or form, and his humour, his sense of humour with and for over life is intact. You add to this then that the King of Wands is actually the energy of Aries, and the Hanged Man is Neptune. That's Neptune into Aries. I think this is a universal nod to say that this is going to be one of the most impactful transits for you this year. So pay attention to it when it happens, right? Which is going to be in March. Now, that being said, in the month of January, you're being invited to reassess and reevaluate yourself, Leo. Who are you now, as opposed to where you have been? What is important to you at this moment in time? How has life shaped you? How has life honed you in some way, shape or form? What is it that really presses forward from within you to say, I require this version of myself to be seen? The King of Wands, after all, is all about visibility, allowing yourself to be seen out there in the world in some way, shape or form. Now, as we come into February, on February the 4th, Jupiter will go direct in your 11th house. That's a pretty big deal because then from there it's a straight shot until it moves into your 12th house. Mars will finally go direct on the 24th of February. This is a big deal, not only because now you get, now we get forward momentum. Now we got the planet of energy and excitation and passion is actually starting to move ahead. But more importantly than that, right, as if that wasn't enough on its own, more importantly than that, now you get to see it all completely clearly, right? Now is where you start to say, okay, I understand this stuff that's been happening in my 12th house now, right? This is where you'll start to make sense of and slowly begin to implement what you have learned from Mars in Cancer.